The following is an article that I initially composed in the year 2020, and it was made a part of my series of essays which are entitled The Lockdown is a PSYOP, which you can find at lockdownpsyop.blogspot.com. But I have started to repost some of these articles on my Substack page. And the one that I'm going to be reading today is entitled The Michael Jordan Flu Game of 1997. Never before March of 2020 were the well treated as if they were the sick and forced into social isolation for the ostensible reason of preventing the spread of a virus. Such a fantastic notion was in fact completely alien to all reasonable discussion of disease prevention prior to 3 months before the time of this writing, when quarantining the healthy suddenly became the norm in a determinedly upside-down world. That this absurd mindset has now to a large extent taken over, rendering human beings little more than penned-in cattle, testifies to the unfortunate degree to which propaganda is effective when promoted in an atmosphere of smothering fear and insufferable panic. Yet I recall a time, not at all long ago, when such notions would have struck everyone as totally alien. In early January of this current year, for example, this was written in 2020, again a reminder, I fell ill of a malady which was diagnosed as the flu. Yet, in spite of this diagnosis, no one at the time sternly instructed me never to leave my home or to quarantine myself indefinitely. During the course of my illness, even though I was certifiably sick, not just potentially sick, as the healthy are commonly regarded now in our new clown world-worthy dispensation, I did not utterly lock myself away from everyone, though when around others I did take reasonable precautions to avoid potentially infecting them. Indeed, prior to March of 2020, those ill with colds or flu were at times even commended for continuing to work in the midst of their sickness, for doing so demonstrated their commitment to their work ethic. A conspicuous instance of this mindset was displayed in the sports world during the 1997 NBA playoffs, when superstar Michael Jordan, though reportedly ill with the flu, nevertheless played 44 grueling minutes through pain, fever, and nausea, leading his Chicago Bulls to victory against the Utah Jazz in Game 5 of the tightly contested series. At the time, Jordan's performance was lauded as a heroic instance of a champion rising above adversity. It is still generally regarded as such by sports historians. Yet, from the perspective of 2020, with the draconian edicts that have been of late promulgated by our current rulers and enforced by their paid, state-hired goons, Jordan's behavior would be deemed far from heroic. Today, in fact, people who are perfectly healthy, displaying no symptoms of illness, are still routinely chided for violating lockdown protocols, since, the argument goes, they may be carriers of the sickness, and thus in interacting with anyone, they are probably helping to spread the infection to people who are vulnerable to grave illness, even death, i.e. the "you're killing grandma" argument. Yet, Michael Jordan, though at the time suffering from apparent influenza, a contagious illness which often kills hundreds of thousands of people per year, was praised for doing what the architects of the new dispensation would decry as reprehensibly irresponsible behavior. The obvious questions to stave off a veritable plague of cognitive dissonance are the following. Number 1. If Michael Jordan's choice to play while seemingly sick with a highly contagious and often deadly ailment was heroic, not irresponsible, much less homicidal back in 1997, during a time when, as with every flu season, huge numbers of people were perishing from the flu, then why would it not be heroic today? Number 2. Conversely, If it is truly behaviorally reprehensible to go into public in close proximity with others, race riots notwithstanding, during a time of a highly contagious epidemic, even when one displays no symptoms, simply because one could have the illness and therefore could hypothetically spread it to others, including vulnerable grandmas who could die from it, then how could it have been inspiringly heroic of Michael Jordan to play while sick with the flu during the 1997 playoffs? If one tries to hold that Jordan's choice to play in 1997 was justified and admirable, but that it wouldn't be justified or admirable today, then one is in an untenable contradiction. But if one dared to assert that playing while sick in 2020 would be equally as heroic as it was in 1997, then one's very consistency marks one as a dangerous wrong-thinker who is anti-science. Yet the modern-day cultural commissars who fling such vituperative slurs have yet to explain how such new protocols are justified in current circumstances, but were not applicable to past circumstances, which in fact closely resemble those of today. Such rhetorical dissonance is of course perfectly harmonious with the overall discordant cacophony of nonsense being spouted by the mouthpieces of our new viral dispensation, which seeks conditioned mass compliance through the imposition of arbitrary edicts designed to enhance the power and control of our reptilian rulers.